So over the first 6 or so weeks of 2024, there's been almost weekly rumors at this point, at least that's what it feels like. Anyway, talking about the launch window for Star Wars Outlaws alongside some other Ubisoft games as well. Some coming from internal leaks, or I guess rumors for now until we can confirm they are actually leaks from Insider Gaming. Some of them coming from their earnings report that states the rough time period that these games are coming out. But all of these rumors and speculations seem to be sort of conflicting and contradicting each other, and it's making it very hard to guess when Outlaws will actually be launching. Now, the game was revealed in June or July of 2023 with not only an awesome trailer, but we also got about 10 minutes of gameplay at Ubisoft Forward. Now, I initially thought the game was going to be in Q4 of 2024, so say October, November, December, but then the gameplay that came out, which was obviously very early if that was going to be the case, combined with the fact that they released a press kit a few months later too, that kind of made me think otherwise. Because generally speaking, when we look at the marketing push for pretty much any other big games out there, when you're getting 10 minutes of gameplay as well as the press kit and stuff like that, that generally means the game isn't too far away. And so I initially thought it was going to be late 2024, but then that kind of made me think otherwise, at which point I was thinking it could potentially be, say, May to August or something of 2024. Now, to add to that even further, we also saw Jedi Survivor launch earlier in 2023. We also saw Hogwarts Legacy and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom launch earlier in 2023 as well. Those were 3 of the biggest games in terms of the IPs that launched in 2023, and all of them launched between Feb and May of that year. So it definitely seems viable that the bigger games out there are starting to launch earlier in the year rather than sort of all launching in the holiday period like they did 10 or so years ago. It seemed like back then every single big game was launching between September and November almost without fail. So it seems like that is a little bit of a shift that is happening over the last few years, and that again added to my theory that maybe the game could be coming out earlier than we thought. Now, after that though, we then got some conflicting reports from multiple areas, one being from Insider Gaming, the other being from the Disney Parks website, that pointed towards the game potentially launching later in the year. So again, I had just started to second guess my initial thoughts of maybe it's launching earlier in the year, and I started to go back to, well, it's probably launching in late 2024, just because all of these things are pointing at that. And again, it just made me really second guess when the game was actually going to be launching, making it really hard to actually have any sort of substance to any guess that you're making in terms of that launch window. Now, Ubisoft had their earnings report just a few weeks ago, and in that they confirmed that Outlaws will be launching before the end of 2024, and that Assassin's Creed Red will be launching between now and the end of March 2025. A lot of people took that as Outlaws confirmed for late 2024 and Assassin's Creed Red confirmed for Feb or March of 2025. But for me, I am in no way sold on that at all. Now, I went and actually looked into it, and every single mainline Assassin's Creed game, and to list them off here just to show you how many that is Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Revelations 3, Black Flag, Rogue Unity, Syndicate, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and Assassin's Creed Mirage. Every single one of those games that I just listed came out in either October or November of those respective years, with absolutely zero exceptions. Now, before we go any further, guys, I wanted to give you a quick but exciting announcement. I've actually overhauled my Patreon, and there is now a free tier on the Patreon. Yes, free Patreon, while still giving you some of the awesome bonuses that we do have over there on the Patreon. Signing up for free will give you access to my private Discord channel. You'll also get the power to vote on the content that you get to see here on the channel, having an actual say in all of the content that goes up, not only on this channel, but my other channels as well. And most excitingly, I'm going to be doing a heap of giveaways throughout this year, giving away stuff like the new merch. For example, there's going to be new merch drops every 2 months or so, giving away some games throughout the year, and all of those giveaways are going to be done through the Patreon. All you need to do is click this button that says join for free. There's no catch to it at all. You're not going to get spammed with emails or anything like that. It is literally just a free tier to the Patreon for those who aren't interested in paying. And by doing so, you're going to be more involved in the community and also get some chances to win giveaways, vote on the content you want to see, and even get access to the private Discord channel, like I said. So be sure to head to the Patreon link down in the description. Click that button that says join for free. But with that being said, let's get stuck back into the video. Now, getting back to all of those Assassin's Creed launches, you may be thinking, what the hell has this got to do with Star Wars Outlaws? But the thing that links this to Outlaws is that Ubisoft knows that that time of year works, that being October or November, and with Assassin's Creed Red being potentially the biggest Assassin's Creed game of all time, I cannot possibly see them actually shifting it away from that period, moving it to, say, Feb or March of 2025. I just simply cannot see that happening. And so that leaves them in a little bit of a predicament as to when they're actually going to launch Star Wars Outlaws. Now, some people have said that they could just launch them both around the same time within, say, 2 to 3 months of each other. But personally, I just cannot see that happening. These are two of their biggest games of the last 5 or so years, I would have to say, and there's no way that they're going to want to launch both of those at the same time, because a lot of people out there cannot afford to just get every single game that comes out. In fact, I would say the majority of people out there can't just buy a game every day. And so if those games launch in the same month or the same couple of months, some people are going to have to just pick and choose one of those games over the other, at which point Ubisoft is just eating into their own profit, because instead of people buying both of their games, they're just going to have to pick and choose one, and that is literally going to lose Ubisoft money, which we know with Ubisoft, that is not what they want to do whatsoever. Like I said, Assassin's Creed Red is very, very important for Ubisoft. It may potentially go down as one of the biggest Assassin's Creed launches of all time. It's not necessarily set to be the best or anything like that, but with how well all of the more RPG Assassin's Creeds have done, and with this one being set in Japan, which is something people have been screaming for well over a decade now, this really does seem as though it is the Assassin's Creed we've kind of all been building towards, where they've, I guess, refined a little bit, not fully, but they've definitely refined their RPG elements in the Assassin's Creed games, and now having the perfect setting and having a year away from those, you know, the bigger RPG types, because they had Mirage as their previous launch, it does just feel as though Assassin's Creed Red is kind of geared up to be, like I said, one of, if not their biggest launch of all time when it comes to that franchise. Now, at the same time though, Star Wars Outlaws could be absolutely huge for Ubisoft. It could go down as one of their biggest launches of all time. All you have to do is look at Hogwarts Legacy, which, like I said, launched in February of last year. That was the highest selling game of the year. It's one of the first games to dethrone Call of Duty in so long now. Essentially, Rockstar are the only other company that have been able to do that. But Hogwarts Legacy was just an absolute out and out success. I believe it sold 24, maybe even 25 million copies. And that is just absolutely ridiculous for a single player game that, I won't say came out of nowhere, but I don't think anyone expected it to be the highest selling game of the year when you look at all the other games that came out that year. And as a prime example, Hogwarts Legacy wasn't even nominated for Game of the Year, yet it outsold all of those other games that were nominated. There was Spider-Man and Starfield and all those huge launches throughout the year, and Hogwarts Legacy essentially blew all of them away, not only because it was a very good game, but it was based on the Wizarding World, which we all know is a huge franchise. Now, by no means do I think Outlaws will be even close to as successful as Hogwarts Legacy. I do see them as very similar games in the fact that, like I said, they're taking a franchise that people know and love, for example, Harry Potter, or in this case, Star Wars, but then putting a game in that universe without it kind of being directly linked to the story that we all know and love. So with Hogwarts Legacy, yes, it was at Hogwarts, but it wasn't in the same time period. You weren't playing as literal Harry Potter. It was almost detached from that actual storyline. And Outlaws is going to be kind of the same thing, where yes, it is set in the original trilogy, and it's going to be set in a very important part of the entire franchise, yet it almost has nothing to do with the actual story of Star Wars. It is essentially a story about a thief, a scoundrel type of character, and their fight against, like, not only the Empire but also other crime syndicates like the Pike Syndicate and the Hutts and stuff like that. It is almost nothing to do with the actual main story, and I think that lends itself really well, just the same way that Hogwarts Legacy did, where you can tell a story in that universe that people love without needing those crucial characters that we see in, for example, the Harry Potter movies, because if you don't do those characters well, that is going to piss people off. Whereas with Hogwarts Legacy, there was almost no connections to the actual movie outside of a few names and obviously the castle itself in Hogwarts, but the story, it really had nothing to do with the actual story of Harry Potter. And I personally think that is why that game was so good, because it simply just puts you into that universe that we all know and love of the Wizarding World, Harry Potter, but there's no links to that actual stuff, and you're just there as your own character that you've made, and you're just experiencing that, you know, Hogwarts school life as we all wanted to when we were kids watching Harry Potter. I do think that same sort of thing could happen with Outlaws, where we just get to go around and be a thief and just do whatever the hell we want, essentially. But obviously doing that within the Star Wars universe. So like I said, I don't think Outlaws will be as successful as Hogwarts Legacy, but I really do think that they'll be pretty similar games in that sense. And I'm absolutely certain that Ubisoft would have looked at Hogwarts Legacy and thought, hell, we could have the same thing on our hands, where I don't think it will be as successful, but who's to say Outlaws won't also sell 25 million copies and be the highest selling game of the year? If it's done really well and people love it, I don't see why that can't possibly happen. So like I said, it could be an absolutely enormous launch for them. It could be one of Ubisoft's biggest of all time, and I just don't see them putting it close to Assassin's Creed Red, which again could be one of their biggest launches when it comes to the Assassin's Creed franchise. All of that makes me sort of lean towards the fact that it, I guess, makes more sense for them to launch Outlaws earlier in the year. I just don't see them moving Assassin's Creed because, like I said, all of the 13 other games they've launched, they've been in October or November. They know that that time period works for that franchise. Yet with Outlaws, there's no precedent that they've set. This is their first time really doing a game like that. So it would make a lot of sense for them to launch the game in, say, May to August, in that sort of middle period of the year. And that's now where I'm kind of leaning again. But again, I just don't have a clue when the game's going to launch, because it just makes as much sense to launch in September or October. The only thing getting in the way there is Assassin's Creed, and I'm genuinely just not sure when either of these games is launching. But it has just had me thinking about it a lot over the last few weeks, especially with all of these reports that I don't feel are taking Assassin's Creed Red into account, because I just do not see them launching them close to each other. But I'm keen to hear what you guys think when it comes to Outlaws. When do you guys think the game is going to launch? Are you guys more leaning towards earlier in the year? Do you think it's going to be late in the year and they're just going to really lock in on the potential of Outlaws, that it could be one of their highest sellers ever, and that they're going to launch later in the year in that holiday period when people are spending their money? I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts, so be sure to leave them down in the comments section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.